Hi, I'm Art Fein. Welcome to Little Art's Poker Party. Coming to you from Santa Monica by the sea on a beautiful day in, May. 1988. We're very happy to have some regular guys and a real extraordinary guest. Some of the regular guys are Ken Barnes. Ken, this is your second...
My chance to explain myself?
This is the second. Ken's the editor of Radio and Records, and he's a longtime friend of Little Arts. I think we're going to start a society like that, so people can send in contributions.
I'll be a charter member.
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks for coming by. Next to him, we got Sid Griffin. Sid?
Art, how you doing?
What are your credits?
Let's see. Right now I'm between bands, which is opposed to between jobs. I used to be in the famous Long Riders, the infamous Long Riders, and right now I seem to be busy being Arthur Treacher to your Merv, and appearing on this show. Send the tapes home to my dad. See, I've got a job. I'm in TV, and he thinks I'm actually doing something out here. So.
Well, that's terrific. It's nice of you to come by, and I know that you guys like seeing me, but I know your real reason was to come to see this guy. We've got Mr. Brian Wilson.
I'm I'm here. I'm right here.
Brian, welcome to the show.
Right here. Thank you. What I've been into lately is, of course, organizing an album with Dr. Landy, who is my executive producer, Gene Landy, and it took us a good year. It took us a whole year to get the components together and to get the voices sounding right, you know. So, but we did it, you know.
Well, what we've heard of it, we've heard snatches.
Yeah, all
of it.
three of us
have heard bits of it, and we're thrilled.
We're
at
knocked
that.
out.
I mean, Ken.
I almost had a religious experience. I think. No, I was listening to it in a car, and
Is that right?
the way it was intended to be heard.
What was
it just
that
sounded
song?
Rio Grande.
No, the second one on the tape that I heard.
Love and Mercy.
After handing it back.
Nighttime.
You guys remember?
Walking the line.
Let It Shine.
Let It
Shine, yeah.
Boy,
Because you had them in a different order we did.
that was a really interesting song. God, it was good. This is the forthcoming cover.
We get a shot of that.
Maybe by the time of this will be in stores, though we're not sure when. You Warner Brothers guys, got any estimates? July or so? Okay. Well, we're looking forward to this quite a bit.
It's about when the show airs.
That's not true. This is your first solo effort as Brian. You guys could fill me in a little more. I know on Pet Sounds you did a lot of vocals and and then one single from that came out under the name.
Didn't Caroline No come out as
Caroline No,
Brian
right.
Wilson?
And then Getting Hungry was
Brian
you
and
and Mike. Yeah.
Yeah.
It came out under the name Brian and Mike.
Brian Wilson and Mike Love.
Okay.
Yeah.
I understand that Pet Sounds has been, you remixed it for Capitol release?
Yeah, we did. We kind of got it together for Capitol. The tape is so old that I would have figured it'd be decrepit by now. You know, I mean, it's 22 years ago that we made the record, and it still stands it's still a good album.
Do you want to?
Very good album.
I'm very embarrassed. I was told to bring by some key Brian albums, and those people that are in the audience that the folks at home aren't aware of will note immediately that this is not the actual first issue. Sorry, I'm into
not green
music.
enough.
Pull it down,
Yeah,
push it,
right.
pull it forward, like that. That's
Sorry,
right.
is that shining? Anyway, this is Pet Sounds, the reissue that came out in '72 with Carl and the Passions. And so I'm very sorry I don't have one of the Japanese tour photographs in the back, but I don't know where it is, perhaps in an old girlfriend's house. So this is the aforementioned album.
So you're going to get that autographed?
Well, as a matter of fact, I was hoping to, but I'm no fool, so I hope so after the show. This is something that's sort of the precursor, I feel. I think Ken was saying about the new album that you've just done, in many ways, thematically in the sounds.
It's almost as if no time had gone by between the two, in a way.
Yeah. Well, are you speaking of Pet Sounds?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
That there's a link there in some way. I don't know if we're reading into it as fans, but I mean, thematically or whatever, and the fact that maybe you had such a great hand in Pet Sounds, that it's your album, there seems to be some
The production has such depth to it.
Yeah. Well, it was Phil Spector inspired and Four Freshmen inspired.
Right, yeah.
And Brian Wilson inspired. I had something to say as a musician on my own after hearing from Spector and what he had to say about rock and roll. For a couple of years there, I didn't think I had much to say outside of what he said, you know, but as time went by, it built up into a whole Brian Wilson package kind of thing, you know what I mean? And I put it across. I put my name and my music across, and respectfully from the business, I got a lot of. But there was a big buzz going around, you know, about Pet Sounds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, the Beatles were crazy about
yeah,
it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Paul McCartney told me that it was his favorite album, which was a big thrill for me to hear. You know? But Rubber Soul and Sgt. Pepper, I mean, we couldn't come up to, you know, the stuff is really good.
it was a mutual admiration
Yeah.
society, I think, because
Yeah.
I think probably hearing Pet Sounds made them try to come up with
Yeah.
Revolver and Sgt. Pepper and all
Yeah.
that. So, great times.
You know, you mentioned the Four Freshmen. I think it was us that were once talking about that this is a very white band, the Beach Boys.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, usually the Doors have a little blues background or something. We don't hear much of black. I mean, it's just interesting. It's neat. I mean, but we don't hear a lot of rhythm and blues like you do in a lot of rock bands. So with the Four Freshmen, did you pick it up from your folks, or were you listening to it yourself?
Well, my mother just pointed out a record on the radio one day called Day by Day, and I liked the sound of what I heard. I liked what I heard enough to where I wanted to hear more, so I had to go to a record store and sample some records by the Freshmen to get satisfied, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It was satisfying, but it left me really wanting more for some reason, you know. It was just a sound, that's all it was.
But a lot of people feel, and I know I'm certainly one of them, that all the people, for instance, Art and I in particular admire, have some linkage to the R&B community, to the black community specifically. And in many ways, there was a phrase I heard that I got from someone, I've forgotten who, so I'm going to take credit for it myself, that you guys were making it hip to be white or all right to be white. To wit, you have the Chuck Berry guitar and certain overtones of the black community, but at the end of the day, you're a suburban, sort of a middle-class sound that's as hip and as groovy and is in there and is in the pocket and as emotional as anything. Whereas the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, et al. Have great linkage to the black community. And you were the first guys to be specifically Californian American, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, you know, Terrence Trent D'Arby. I don't know if you heard
Yeah,
of him.
of
He and I
course.
just cut together.
Really?
And, yeah.
Oh,
So
great.
it wound up a black and white record, you know. But he was just excellent. I mean, the guy really can sing, you know.
Oh, did you see that show?
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
Terrence, yeah.
What
it
show was that?
interesting. Terrence Trent D'Arby.
Oh, the show with the performance.
But his singing would be a first cousin of that type of thing that they do. I mean, he can do the falsetto and have the groove and all that stuff. So it's a perfect foil for a guy like yours talent.
Oh, there's something I got to ask. Did you like Queen at all?
Queen. Oh yeah, Queen.
Because they got the high harmonies, and I've always...
Queen were not Beach Boy influenced. I mean, you know,
No.
but the guy's classical background was immense. I mean, I don't have the background that he had to create a record like that with such a big sound, you know, and not like the wall of sound from Spector, but in a class of its own. You know what I mean?
I just wondered if you ever noticed it, because I thought the high harmonies had some
Yeah,
similarity.
I did. I heard something in it, but I kept referring back to the wall of sound. If you're going to go so far and make a record that's going to be that great, why not go all the way and do a record that sounds even better?
He did, actually, the guy from Queen did a version of I Can Hear Music,
Oh, did
which
he
was
really?
a total Spector tribute.
Yeah.
Oh,
under the
wow.
name Larry Lurex.
Oh,
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
assumed name?
Yeah, sort of like a Gary Glitter kind
Oh, I
of thing.
see.
You got to we'll make a tape for it.
Yeah,
It'd be
it's great. It's actually very, very good.
Yeah.
Good version of it.
What was the first? I've always asked this. What's the first record you bought, Ken?
Oh, man.
Mr. Tambourine Man by the Byrds.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
The first record you bought?
Can I-
Yeah,
You
I was a little late. Yeah. Well, I listened to him for years before, but I didn't realize you could go out and actually buy the things on the radio until I got my driver's license.
You look a lot older. It's funny, man.
Yeah.
No, you're just a late
hopelessly.
bloomer.
A late bloomer.
But
That's a good
I
way to
found
put
some
it.
of the most intensely interested people were late bloomers. I mean, you say
Yeah.
you heard records but didn't know you could actually purchase them.
Right, until I had a car, you know, and could drive. And, hey, there's a record store. You can actually buy these things, you know, correct?
What about you?
This
Took
is
me a while
it.
to catch
That's your
on.
first?
Yeah,
Wow, it says Sid Griffin in the corner.
Yeah, and it also has, I just was learning to
that's
spell
so
on the back, so we won't show the back. And one reason why this thing is so decrepit is this is the first rock and roll album I ever bought in my life, period. It's not Dad buying it for me or anyone, just I got it with my own money. I was raking leaves. And although I think it's a fine record, I think the Beach Boys made better records, but it means a great deal to me, and I'm so glad you asked that.
And of course, you were living on the West Coast at the time.
Yes. No, I was living in, and I was born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky, so I don't have a lot to do with the surf sound as a young man, as a little kid, certainly. But one of the reasons I came out here, this is pretty good, it's like being, one of the reasons I came out here is people like the Byrds and the
Go
Beach
with
Boys
it,
were such
Sid.
a heavy influence on guys like me that were learning to play guitar, because there was no way I was going to be Albert King and there was no way I was going to be Magic Sam. But you have an outside chance at getting in a groove at McGuinn or Carl Wilson or whatever. So when we started pursuing music for a career, my band moved out here. And I got on the show.
Yeah, here you are.
And
What was the first record you
nowhere to
bought?
go
you
but
know?
down from here.
Wow, first record in my life or in rock and roll?
Probably in rock and roll.
In rock and roll. I think I bought Over the Mountain.
Yeah? Johnny and
Might
Joe.
have bought that, yeah.
Well, that holds up real well. You listen to that thing still.
Yeah, I know.
It's so darn
Well, she had
It's very
something.
modern
Johnny had
first
something to
time.
do with the Janettes later too. So I
Johnny
go
and-
around
Johnny
the
and Joe?
roses. I think so. Yeah, and
Wait.
that's a killer record.
Then I bought Be My Baby, which got worn out. You know? It was such an elusive kind of a sound. You listen once, and you hear something, and then you listen again and again. It's very elusive.
You've got all the Spector records.
Oh yeah.
Do you figure you've mastered how he got all his sounds?
I mastered the instrumentation of the sounds. You know what I
Right.
mean, like I could say, well, that's a bass, and I can identify a guitar there, and then I hear something in echo here. But to emulate Spector is to really get in the studio. You know what I mean? Because everybody was doing it, so why not?
I thought, from what I heard of the new record, that a lot of it sounds pretty Spector-ish in places. The production
tracks-
is very strong.
No, not really Spector. Not the album. Some of the arranging in the album had Spector kind of things, but most of it was my kind of thing. I don't choose to emulate anybody anymore. I did that. I figure I was a messenger in the '60s.
Right.
I had a message, and that was, well, let's see, why don't you play Be My Baby or To Do Run Run, and turn people on to something good like that, But
Yeah, I understand Andy Paley, who I followed
yeah,
for a
you know
while.
about him?
Yeah, he did some neat records. He worked with you somewhat on this
he
record.
lived with Phil Spector for 6 months.
Did he really?
Yeah, Spector brought him into his fold, fed him, recorded him, everything, groomed him up, and then he kicked him out.
Nothing ever came out, right?
No,
Yeah.
nothing came out.
Wow.
But I don't know. He's real with it.
Yeah, he was-
kind of fast-witted and sort of.
Plays a lot of instruments.
Yeah.
and all
Andy,
that,
we're
yeah.
talking about, or Phil?
Andy, yeah.
Oh, Phil's kind of fast-witted too, and plays.
Yeah,
He does
and
have a wit.
And Phil may kick you out.
I personally believe that Phil practices all his lines at home and then has people over. and then
rehearses or something.
Yeah, rehearses. That's my opinion.
This may be true.
Well, you guys in the early days, I know you recorded some stuff. Ed Gold Star, didn't you? How much was Pet Sounds there?
We did a song there called "Why Do Fools Fall in Love." Have you ever heard that
Yeah,
song?
yeah, it was a
Yeah,
great
we
version.
We did a
that.
version of that one, and we did "Be True to Your School" there.
Uh-huh.
And what else? That's it.
So you were in and out of there. So
Yeah.
how did you happen to go there for those? Because
It was just Mike said, "Hey, why don't we cut where Phil Spector cuts?" I said, "Hey, that's a good idea. We'll go copy a sound." So we got a couple of hit records.
Yeah, great.
But that's kind of, this is getting kind of one-dimensional, because I can almost hear the Spector bell buzzing. Because when new wave or punk bands happened, like the Ramones are a fine example, you guys were one of the few bands at that time people my age didn't sort of start to dislike as being dinosaurs or whatever. Like the Sheen is a punk rocker and Rockaway Beach and records like that are definitely Beach Boys, Jan and Dean, West Coast sound influenced with the guitar.
I mean, Ramones records?
Yeah, Ramones records, as opposed to, certainly the Ramones.
Well, the Ramones did "Do You Want to Dance"?
Yeah,
very
oh,
much.
sure.
Who produced it?
Taken from your
And they did an
version.
album with Phil
I think they
Spector.
did that one.
So what I was saying is that whole West Coast thing, not Spector, but what the Beach Boys did as well with the more guitar-oriented music as opposed to the Spector ballady productions, was something you shouldn't sell too short, because it sold a lot of bands later on down the line on a sound and on a certain feel and a certain energy. So there's really more to this than the Phil influence. There's that other edge of the sword.
It's amazing the musicians I run into, or anybody runs into, are just so influenced by you. I think it was Robin Hitchcock's show recently. All his band are like fanatic Beach Boys fans. They have every record. They have strange tapes of things. We're crazy about the stuff.
And we made albums, but some of the albums we made were almost like unfinished albums. You know what I mean?
Well, you were making them so fast
What
for a
period
while
of time
there.
are you referring to when you say that?
Carl and the Passion is so tough.
Oh.
Had an incomplete feeling about it.